Starting, all attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is REST APIs in cloud computing. And our guest speaker today is Basavaraj Kodkali. He is the architect with Manipal Global Education Services. Basavaraj has more than 12 years of experience in designing and building distributed and web-scale applications for healthcare, enterprise, finance, and training and education domains. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Basavaraj.
Thanks, Ravina. Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's discussion topic. I hope you all can hear me clearly. In case of any issue, you can contact Aradhana for any help required. Today's topic is REST APIs in cloud computing. Today's topic is mostly motivated by the issue that many people talk about REST APIs or the cloud computing in isolation. However, both together when applied is when the cloud computing is really truly meaningful and really helps you in taking the cloud to the next level and making most out of your infrastructure. So we will go about discussing this topic today, and let me introduce you to today's agenda or the scope that we will be discussing. So we will start with introduction to REST architecture. We'll also understand how are these REST architecture constraints are derived and defined, how they benefit in web concepts. We'll also outline the cloud computing concepts or the characteristics, challenges, and some of the good cloud challenges that we need to address using the REST. We'll also, in the end, see how the cloud computing challenges are overcome using the REST architecture principles and the concepts. With that, we'll move to discussions towards the end of the session. Let me now introduce you about the REST as a representational state transfer, as it stands for REST. REST is actually a network-based architectural style for distributed hypermedia systems, such as the World Wide Web. REST can not only be applied to World Wide Web, but any of your intranet web application which makes use of hypermedia as a computing platform can also be applied. REST was originally introduced by Roy Thomas Fielding in 2000. Roy Thomas Fielding introduced REST as a more of constraints-driven RESTful architecture for distributed hypermedia systems, which means that REST will not impose any additional requirements on the World Wide Web in order to achieve its principles and the benefits it states to derive. It also makes hypermedia as the engine of application state change, which means you would be using hypermedia as your state machine. Without implementing any workflow engine, you can make use of the hypermedia itself as your workflow engine. Overall, REST mainly emphasizes on scalability of component interactions and generality of interfaces. These two concepts are like overarching concepts which define broader RESTful constraints as well as provide a broader benefit to the web systems. Before continuing with the rest of the topic, we would like to start with a poll so that we know our audience well. Aradhana, can you please provide the polling?
Yes, Basavaraj. Are you able to see the poll window?
No, I'm unable to see the poll window.
All right, let me just tell our audience about the poll a little. It's your familiarity with REST and cloud. And you can select the options from new to the topic, aware but do not understand the topic, understand cloud but not REST, or understand REST but not cloud. Can we close the poll now, Basavaraj?
Yes, we can.
And the poll is over, so do let me know whenever you would like to know the results.
Okay. Right.
And the results of the
Can we
poll
know the
is,
results?
yes, Basavaraj. So the result for the poll is 34% of our audience has said they are new to the topic. 32% have said that they are aware but do not understand the topic. 15% have notified that they understand cloud but not REST. And 20% of the audience have said they understand REST but not cloud.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So we will move on to the defining of each architectural constraints of REST, and we'll spend more time in understanding those since majority of the people are new to this topic. Okay. So REST mainly lists 5 architectural constraints for the network-based or the distributed network systems. One is client-server. It is meant to separation of concerns. We'll see more in detail about that. Second, stateless communication. All your client-server communication should be stateless so that the scalability can be infinitely increased. We also discuss about cache as the key architectural constraints by REST. Uniform interfaces, which is the key distinguishing point of REST architecture style. Last, layered is one of the key component-based architectural style of REST. In the end, code on demand, which is not a mandatory constraint, but an optional constraint imposed by REST architecture style. We'll discuss each of these in more detail in a little while. So once again, repeating the constraints: client-server, stateless communication, cached, uniform interface, layered, and code on demand. Let's have a look at each of these constraints in detail now. What you are seeing